Okay, hi guys, my name is Brittany and this will be my first video on my YouTube channel. I don't know why this is going to be my first, but I guess it makes sense because this is a big part of my life, but I'm going to be talking about mental illness and how it ties in with my chronic nausea. So, I've had chronic nausea. I was diagnosed with chronic nausea since around middle to late August of 2017, so last year. Well, I wasn't diagnosed in August, but I started getting symptoms in August. I was diagnosed actually in mid to late October, and the reason why it took so long for the diagnosis is because I didn't go in for the first August, September, October, a couple months of having these symptoms. Excuse me, I was having symptoms, and I still am having symptoms of nausea, really bad nausea, and along with that, dizziness. And, acid reflux symptoms. But I've also now been having headaches, migraines, and the symptoms that started in August have intensified greatly. All my symptoms have been progressively getting worse, and nobody knows exactly what's wrong with me. So that's why when I actually went in, because everything kept getting worse, they just gave me the diagnosis of chronic nausea because they didn't know what was wrong with me yet, at least. And the chronic nausea, like I said, has been getting worse since then. But the reason why it took me so long to go in is because of my anxieties. So, in August, a lot started happening to me. It was a couple months after I started dating my boyfriend, and, I started dating him after getting out of a pretty serious relationship, but I was actually happy, I was trying to get back to a healthy happy, you know what I mean? And, I was out of high school, I was getting ready for college, a lot was happening for me, and I just had moved in with my dad and my sister into an apartment. But then these symptoms started happening, and at first I thought these symptoms were because of my IUD. So I started, I went to Planned Parenthood and I got a copper IUD, which is a non-hormonal IUD put in. And for birth control, that can last up to 12 years for most people since it's non-hormonal. I don't know exactly how that works, but I thought that was a perfect idea because for for birth control, I had taken the pill before, and that would make me violently sick and not feel well. So I thought probably hormones weren't the best idea for me, so I did that. But it was a couple weeks after I got that in that I started realizing I had these symptoms, and I thought it was because of the IUD. I thought they would go away. But then in October, I decided to go in, and I am scared of, at least I was scared of going to the doctor. And this lady I went to was a new doctor. First time I went to her when I was talking to her about these symptoms. And she, what I was dreading the most is that I knew she was probably going to ask for a blood sample. And it's so stupid. This is why you can't just let your fears take over your life, because I could possibly know what's wrong with me right now if I had gone in sooner. And I would have been maybe looked at as somebody who was taking things in relation to these symptoms more seriously. But anyway, I went in and she said I would have to get blood taken, have to do a blood sample. I'm very nervous around needles still, but especially then, because the last time I had gotten blood taken out, I passed out from it. So it was pretty traumatizing for me. So because of that, I was very nervous to get blood taken, but I knew that I wanted to get these symptoms out of the way, so I went in, got the blood sample done. I was crying before, and I was crying after. I was so happy I finally did it and faced my fear. Ended up getting my blood taken before after that. Maybe only once, but at least once or twice, but at least I did it. And I was getting these tests done. Nothing was out of the ordinary, except for it said I was low on potassium. And she's like, oh, we should put you on potassium pills or tablets because you need them. You know, you're low on potassium. Like, that's not really my main concern right now, thank you, but I think I'll just eat some more bananas. Like, I'll be fine. It wasn't that low, I don't think. So, and she said, well, also the tablets, potassium pills, tablets, whatever you want to call them, they give you side effects of nausea. And it's like, I don't need that right now. I would rather deal with that another time if it's still an issue, but for now I want to deal with my nausea. I was doing these tests. I did I did this one test where I had to ingest, like I had to swallow this thing for I think it's pylori, something like that. I had to do something for that to see if that was the cause of my symptoms, the infection in the stomach. That came back negative. I did blood tests negative for anything that would be causing my symptoms. I ended up doing a barium swallow, and that was not fun. I ended up getting an endoscopy done. That was, I had to get a needle put in. No blood was taken, but they had to put a needle in to put me, an IV in, to be able to put me under for the endoscopy, and that was not fun. For the first time in my life, my veins were rolling. So if you've never had to deal with veins that are rolling when people are trying to put an IV in, it hurts, and it makes you feel like you're going to pass out. At least for me and my family. My mom has had to deal with this for, forever, basically. And my sister now has this as an issue. So that's not fun. I've done so many tests, and then I did another blood test when I switched doctors. I've been put on a lot of different medications, and the main medication, I also ended up having a UTI, and that sucked because of symptoms. I was put on, I don't remember what it's called, but it had really bad reviews. I'm one of those people, I look up medications before I ingest them because I'm afraid of the side effects. Especially when I already don't feel good and I'm literally diagnosed with chronic nausea. I don't have to deal with nausea, but I had to get rid of the UTI because I thought maybe that could be the reasoning behind everything. After I got done with that medication, which was it was terrible because it gave me even more nausea, more heartburn, acid reflux. After I got off of that, I was still having symptoms. They weren't as bad as when I was on the medication though, but that's because of the symptoms that the medication was giving me. But before that, I was put on Prozac. And the reason why I was put on Prozac, which is, I believe it is an antidepressant, is because I used to take Prozac. So I used to take Prozac for anxiety and for my depression. And the reason they were putting me back on it was because they thought, okay, let me backtrack. So in August, a couple of days after I got my IUD put in, I stopped taking my Prozac. cold turkey, and I was on 60 milligrams. You're not supposed to just stop taking your meds, especially without supervision of a doctor or consultants, I should say, with a doctor or a specialist. Yeah, I did that. That was not good, because then people thought that it was due to withdrawal symptoms that I was getting that. These symptoms. That I was getting these symptoms. So I got put back on that. And that mixed with the other medication that I was on to get rid of the UTI, back to back. Both of them together, like that whole time period, which is around, at the very least, 2 weeks, but I think it was more so around 3 to 4 weeks. It was the worst time, because surprisingly, the Prozac made me feel even worse as well. And the gastroenterologist I was seeing at that time, he was so positive and so sure that my symptoms were due to withdrawal symptoms from the Prozac. But as soon as I got back on the Prozac, I just got so much worse, and life was so miserable for me. And when I told the gastroenterologist that was why, when I told the gastroenterologist that I was getting worse on the Prozac, or the fluoxetine is the medical term for it, he just told me to stop taking it, and he blamed all my symptoms on my anxiety, which was very frustrating. I know someone, at least one person, who has been diagnosed with anxiety and realized that their gastrointestinal problems were, and like their nausea, were due to their anxiety. But for me, I know it's not the case, because let's say after I got out of a very toxic relationship with my ex-boyfriend, and I was with this new guy, and I was doing all these things for college, getting ready, and a new start. I had a new apartment. I was living with my dad and my sister. I was so ready with I was so happy with whatever life would throw at me. I was ready, I should say. And now I have to deal with all of these symptoms. And it's just so frustrating. And I've been to multiple people. I switched to a doctor to start, because I lived in a different area. I wanted to go to a doctor a little bit closer to me, and also I just didn't feel comfortable with the doctor I was assigned with before. I only went to her once, and I didn't feel comfortable with her. So I went to a different doctor. She was not very helpful, and I could tell she didn't care about my symptoms and me as a person. And at first it was hard for me to convince my boyfriend of this, because I think he just wanted for somebody to help us, and he wanted me to be positive. But I could tell that this woman that I was seeing did not care. And I think part of the reason for that is because I was at the time on Medicaid. And for those of you who don't know what Medicaid is, it is, I don't even know how to describe it specifically, but it helps people who are in lower income families. That's the best way I know how to put it. And when I was put on that, I was hearing about the benefits, and I was like happy I at least had, coverage for medical things. But sadly, when you have Medicaid, doctors don't tend to help you as much, or want to help you as much most of the time, because you are on Medicaid. If you want some more information on that, I would suggest maybe doing your own research, because I don't know a lot about Medicaid. because I wasn't on it for that long, but anyway, yeah, so I think that's part of the reason why she didn't want to help me that much. And then I went to a gastroenterologist at the same time. They were so set on it being the Prozac or the fluoxetine that after I got my endoscopy, I went back on the Prozac. And they were so set on that being the reasoning behind my symptoms that as soon as I told them that it was making me feel even worse, like much worse even, they just blamed it all on my anxiety. They literally said, oh, you should just go to a counselor because you need help. I'm like, okay, so that's great. And now I'm at a different doctor, and now I'm on a different med, and it's not helping. It's amitriptyline, I believe is how you say it, and it's an antidepressant. It can also be used for headaches, migraines, depression, and it's even been used for gastroparesis, which is what I thought I could have had, maybe. But now I'm putting this pill, and I have to keep waiting and waiting, and I feel like people aren't listening to me when I'm saying how much this is affecting my life. I had to drop out of my second semester of college, and I had to drop out of 4 classes the first semester of college. Something you should know about me is that in high school, I got really good grades. Well, junior and senior year, I started wavering a little bit because, I was getting tired of school, but I did have good grades, and I did a lot of college classes. And I was able to get accepted into a college nearby, like very near, the closest college to me. And I had to drop out second semester because of all these symptoms. And the reason why this is all even more worse than it sounds is because the reason why I got put on Prozac of my anxiety and depression, but mainly the anxiety that I was getting from the fear of getting sick. And what I mean by getting sick is like throwing up and feeling nauseous. I had a very traumatic experience with what I believe to be food poisoning in 7th grade. And after that, it took a couple months, but after that, my anxiety was through the roof. And I still to this day consider myself an emetophobe, or emetophobic person, however you want to say it. Emetophobia is the fear of vomiting. And so the fact that now every single day, like it used to just be every single day at night I would get these symptoms, now it's every single day from the morning I wake up. Maybe it takes an hour to set in, but basically from the morning I wake up until I go to bed at night. And now I can't even barely sleep on a bed. It's very rare. I have to sleep up on a couch because of the acid and the nausea. It sucks having to deal with this, considering my past and my already very obvious fear of getting sick. So every day I have to live with this, and it's hard because of the fact that I did quit the Prozac so suddenly. People do, well, the first assumption was that it was from the Prozac, but then after I was on them and then I got off them, people don't think it's from that anymore, and I don't know if it is from that, but what I do know is now I'm just being put on random medications that aren't necessarily related directly to my main symptom, which is nausea. Like right now I'm on a headache or migraine medication. It's meant for that mainly, or being an antidepressant. And it's so hard to get people to take you seriously when you've already done something like that. When you've already done something like quit cold turkey 60 milligrams of being on Prozac. It is not a good idea. And I realize that so much now because I don't know now if my symptoms are related to me quitting my antidepressant or if they're related to something else. And I did recently get my IUD taken out, and now I know it's not from the IUD. Even though in the back of my head I thought it could have been, now I know it's not, because my symptoms are still here. They're still very obvious and out there, and they affect my life so much, and I can't get a job. And I think when you have been diagnosed with a mental illness, people just assume that whatever symptoms you are having are related to that mental illness. Especially if you quit cold turkey your medication like I did. And it's a very sticky situation, because now I have to deal with things that I never thought I would have to deal with, and things that every day scare me, because I don't know if these symptoms are going to go away soon. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back to college, and it's affecting my relationships with everybody. I can't go in a car. I don't do it that much because I get such motion sickness and I feel so gross and disgusting. So I'm usually just at home. And, you know, friends are out of town. They're at different colleges. My best friends are, my good friends are. So it gets very lonely, especially when doctors don't necessarily want to help you with figuring out exactly what's wrong with you. I'm sorry, I keep moving. I'm sitting on my bathroom floor. I can't see how well y'all can see me, but y'all, okay. But I just really hope that I can figure out what's wrong with me soon. My faith is wavering. It's steadily just declining, wavering. You know, I want to be able to figure out what's wrong with me, but doctors feel like they already have an assumption of what it is, but then they don't. Either they try to help me with that, and once they figure out it's not what they were thinking that's wrong with me, they just disregard me completely, or people think it's something else, and they just don't do enough fast enough to help me. And I understand there's so many patients out there, but I don't think just putting somebody on a bunch of random medications is the answer. I think that people should be given a lot of different tests, and I have been given a good handful of different tests. But I think that doing more tests would be more beneficial, so that I can at least eliminate certain conditions or diseases or illnesses out. I can rule certain things out once I get tests done and they say I'm negative for something, or if I'm positive for something. And I think the fact that I am young and that I've been really healthy up to this point, at least physically, has put a damper on people's minds when they look back at my records and they try to figure out what's wrong with me, and they, you know, they know that in the past I haven't had anything wrong with me. I've been to the ER, and people there, like the doctor, said he literally could not do anything for me. I'm like, well, can I get a CAT scan done? Can I get, you know, an MRI done, an X-ray? Can I get anything done so I can figure out what's wrong with me? So I can at least eliminate certain conditions out, diseases out, anything out. Or at least I can find the solution for my symptoms. And I was just told no, you know. And I understand the fact that certain tests can heighten the chance or make it greater of a chance that you can get cancer. I understand that. But at this point, I've been dealing with this for so long. And it is so tiring that I'm willing to do whatever test is needed and necessary. But basically what I want to say is make sure that if you want to get off of a medication, that you talk to a doctor first and you wean off that medication if necessary, which likely it is for a lot of medications. And just make sure that if you are maybe in my shoes, if you have something wrong with you and doctors aren't seeming to help and they aren't doing enough in a fast enough fashion, just know that I'm here with you for you to stay strong, and that if nobody else would be around you when you're at your worst, at least I will. I'll be there for you because I'm in the same boat. I've been in the same boat for quite a while now. I mean, I don't really know what else to say except for I think that more can be done to strengthen the, medical or healthcare system, healthcare as well, for coverage of certain tests and such, but shut up, I'm sorry. But I hope that, if anything, I don't even know what I was saying, honestly, but I hope that, if anything, you don't give up, and that you should know that life is hard, and sometimes you'll feel so alone, but there's always going to be people out there who are in the same boat as you, sadly, Oh, but anyway, yeah, I think that everything medical in the United States right now could be improved. Because there are people like me, and like many people like me, sadly, in this country, the US of A, who need help and who are struggling, but doctors aren't doing enough, fast enough, to figure out what's wrong with you. This video is probably a huge mess, but like I said, it can be very lonely and it feels good to vent. I hope that somebody ends up, watching this video and saying how they can at least relate to me, because not only will that give me self-assurance, but it can also give maybe one of you assurance that you're not alone and that you're not the only one that feels this way or is struggling in life. And I hope that mental illness will not continue to be frowned upon and be looked at as the root of all someone's problems. Because I have had anxiety and depression since middle school. I know what my anxiety and my depression is. And I know that my symptoms aren't related to that at all. Well, I hope that this video touched somebody. And maybe I'll give updates on what I'm going through, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maybe I'll, say how I've been or what's changing in regards to all my medical issues. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. And be healthy.